There's a truth that we all want to avoid, one that lurks quietly in the background of our lives. It's not out there. It's not in your government, your job, or the people you blame when things go wrong. It's in you. The chaos, the disarray, the resentment. That festering bitterness that makes you contemptuous, angry, and weak. And if you don't face it head on, you'll be swallowed by it. Fix yourself before it's too late. When I was a young man, I found myself descending into a kind of aimless fog, a nihilism bred not from the evils of the world, but from the evasion of responsibility. I knew that things weren't right, but I didn't want to admit that the problem wasn't the system, it wasn't my upbringing. It wasn't the unfairness of life, it was me. And when you finally confront that dreadful revelation, when you see the enemy in the mirror, it's a moment both terrifying and liberating. Because if you're the problem, you can also be the solution. People think freedom means doing whatever you want. No. Freedom is discipline. Freedom is the ability to aim at something noble and walk the narrow path toward it without being torn apart by your worst impulses. The world is a harsh place. Tragedy is inevitable, but meaning, that's voluntary. You find it by choosing responsibility. Pick up the heaviest thing you can carry and walk uphill with it. Why? Because there's redemptive power in voluntarily shouldering the burden. That's what turns suffering into purpose. That's what transforms man from a passive victim to an active hero. You want to change the world. Start by cleaning your room. And I don't say that as a metaphor. I mean literally clean your room. Why? Because it's a microcosm of your soul. If your own private space is in disarray, what does that say about your psyche, your values, your respect for yourself and others? The person who can bring order to their own space is the person who can bring order to chaos itself. You think great acts begin with grandeur. They begin with sweeping the floor. There's an old story. The hero must slay the dragon to rescue the maiden and bring the treasure back to the village. But we've forgotten what that really means. The dragon is fear, evil, suffering, potential. It guards something of unimaginable value. Your future, your potential, your strength. And unless you voluntarily go down into the depths of the unknown, confront it and conquer it, you'll never grow. You'll remain a child pretending to be an adult, forever resentful that the world won't save you. But here's the secret. You're the one meant to save yourself. And listen, this isn't optional. Life will force you to confront yourself eventually, through illness, loss, failure, regret. So you have a choice. Face the darkness voluntarily today or be broken by it tomorrow. Time is not on your side. The years pass, the body ages, opportunities vanish, and every lie you tell yourself stacks another brick in the wall between who you are and who you could be. So stop waiting, stop blaming, get your house in order. Speak the truth. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Live as if your actions matter, because they do. You are not insignificant. You are capable of immense good, but only if you're willing to become more than what you are now. Fix yourself before it's too late. Do you want this adapted for a live performance or video script format? We walk through life with this persistent illusion that the world is unfair to us, that the suffering we experience is something inflicted upon us by systems, by others, by fate itself. But that's a lie, a seductive, dangerous lie. The truth is far more difficult, but far more empowering. You are not who you could be, and that's the problem. Most people don't want to hear that, and why would they? It's a terrifying proposition. It means you're responsible for your actions, your laziness, your addictions, your bitterness, your failures. It means that the things that keep you up at night, the ones you try to drown out with distraction, entertainment, substances, or endless scrolling, those are the dragons in your psyche that you refuse to face, and they're winning. Every day you avoid responsibility. Every time you tell yourself it's not your fault, they grow bigger, stronger, more cunning. I remember in my 20s, I found myself slipping into this psychological abyss. I couldn't focus. I was overwhelmed by ideas, but had no discipline to organize them. I had ambition, sure, but no structure. And when things didn't go well, when I felt isolated or angry, I found it far easier to blame the world than to look inward. But one night, after spiraling into yet another depressive episode, I realized something with a clarity that was almost violent. No one was coming to save me. If I didn't change, no one else could do it for me. That was my job, and I was failing at it. So I started to ask myself, what lies am I telling? What responsibilities am I avoiding? Where am I choosing comfort?
RT over meaning? These are not easy questions. They rip you apart. They expose every falsehood you've built your identity around. But until you start there, until you admit that you are not yet the person you could be, then you'll continue to suffer unnecessarily. Not because the world is cruel, but because you refuse to take ownership of your life. Here's the thing. You know where the chaos is. You don't need someone to tell you. It's the unfinished conversations, the cluttered room, the empty promises, the browser history you hide, the things you could do today but push to tomorrow. You think ignoring those things protects you, but it doesn't. It weakens you. It turns you into someone you don't respect. And if you don't respect yourself, why would anyone else? The enemy isn't out there, it's right here, inside of you. It's your cowardice, your refusal to aim higher, your insistence on comfort over growth. But here's the good news. If you're the source of the chaos, you're also the source of the order. That means you're not a victim, you're a potential hero. If you dare to confront what's broken inside you and take small, painful, meaningful steps toward fixing it, then you become the kind of person who can not only save yourself, but uplift others to, this is the first step. And it's the hardest, but you must make it, because if you don't face the chaos within, the world outside will devour you. And that's not metaphor. That's reality. Would you like me to expand the second keynote next? Responsibility is not a punishment. It's not some burden arbitrarily placed on your shoulders by society, your parents, or your job. It is the path, the narrow, difficult path toward meaning and redemption. People often recoil from that word redemption. They think it's archaic or religious. But it's not. Redemption is what happens when you willingly confront the parts of yourself that are weakest, most destructive, and instead of ignoring or excusing them, you take responsibility for them. You say, this is mine, and I will fix it. That act alone changes everything. See, people don't want to carry the weight. It's hard. You might think, why should I be the one to do all this? Why should I sacrifice and strive when no one else seems to? But that's precisely the test. That's the point. The alternative is resentment, and resentment is a slow spiritual poison. You start to think the world owes you something, that life should be easier, that happiness should just happen. But that mindset breeds weakness and bitterness. And soon enough, you become cynical, envious, even malevolent. That's how people decay. I've seen this in therapy countless times. A man walks in, lost, his marriage is collapsing, his job is slipping, he drinks too much. And when you ask him what he really wants, it's not pleasure, it's not escape, it's meaning. He wants to be someone his children admire. He wants to walk into a room and not feel like a fraud. He wants to be proud of himself when no one else is watching. But to do that, he has to pick up the damn weight. He has to stop blaming his wife, his boss, his past. He has to take responsibility, and slowly, painfully, it changes. That is redemption. That is the rebirth of a man who once thought he was too broken to fix. Here's what we've forgotten in this culture. Responsibility is what grounds you. It's what gives you a reason to get out of bed. It's what transforms suffering into purpose. You think about the weight of a family, the weight of leadership, the weight of integrity. It's not light. It will strain your back and test your resolve. But it's in the carrying of that weight that you become someone worth being. You want to be useful? Start with the things you've been avoiding, the obligations you've neglected. Do the dishes. File your taxes. Apologize when you're wrong. Say no when it matters. Tell the truth. These things matter. They accumulate. Every small act of responsibility is a brick in the foundation of your future self. Ignore them, and the house crumbles. Face them, and you build something that can withstand the storm. There's a line I've said before. and will keep saying until people hear it. The purpose of life is not happiness, it's the pursuit of meaning. And meaning is found where responsibility is accepted. That's where you wrestle with your limitations. That's where you voluntarily confront the suffering of existence. And when you do that one, you embrace responsibility instead of avoiding it. You stop being a victim of life and become a participant in it. We live in a world that tells you to chase comfort, to chase pleasure, to avoid pain. But that's not a path, it's a trap. Because the pain is coming no matter what. You can't escape it, but you can give it purpose. And that's the only thing that will save you. Would you like to continue with the third keynote next? Clean your room. People laughed when I said that. Some still do. They think it's some kind of joke, like I'm offering housekeeping advice instead of deep psychological truth. But the people who get it, really get it, understand that this isn't about tidiness. It's about confronting the chaos right in front of you and doing something about it. It's about reclaiming agency in a world that feels overwhelming. Let me ask you something. If you can't put the things in your own bedroom in order, your clothes, your papers, your bed, your books, what makes you think you can put your life in order? What makes you think you're fit to criticize the world or to hold others accountable when you haven't yet demonstrated that you can take care of your own space? Your room is a mirror of your mind. If it's in disarray, chances are, so are you. The clutter isn't just physical, it's psychological. Every item out of place is a decision you've delayed, a task you've avoided, a moment of chaos that you've allowed to persist. And when that builds up over time, it doesn't just create a mess in your environment, it creates a kind of spiritual entropy. Distracted, weak. But something remarkable happens when you start small. When you walk into that room, overwhelmed, and choose to act. Not perfectly, not all at once, but deliberately. You pick up one thing, you make one corner clean, you impose order, however small, on one patch of chaos. And that act seemingly trivialis a declaration. It says, I will take responsibility for this. I will make order here. That's not nothing. That's everything. One, because the skill it takes to bring order to a room is the same skill it takes to bring order to your thoughts, your relationships, your habits, your finances, your future. It's the cultivation of discipline, of attention, of intentionality. And it scales. You become a person who sees disorder and doesn't flinch, who steps in and does the difficult, boring, necessary things that no one else wants to do. You become dependable. You become strong. I've spoken to countless people, young men especially, who feel lost, depressed, and aimless. They want to change the world, they say. They want justice, impact, meaning. Good. But where are you going to start? You think you're going to rebuild institutions or fix the political system when you haven't cleaned your desk in a month? When you haven't kept a promise to yourself in weeks? You have no foundation. And without that, your grand ambitions are castles built on sand. Start with your room. Not because it's the final destination, but because it's the first battlefield. It's the place where you test your ability to act, to order your environment, and to develop the character necessary to take on bigger challenges. You think it doesn't matter? It does. Profoundly. Because the order you create there spreads outward into your habits, your schedule, your words, your goals. It teaches you that you can change things, that chaos doesn't have to win, that you are capable, and if you can create order in your private world, you become a force of order in the larger world. That's how you conquer, not by starting revolutions or shouting about injustice before you've built yourself into someone solid, but by proving through small repeated acts of will that you can take what's broken and make it better. Would you like me to expand the fourth keynote next? There is an ancient truth that echoes through myth, religion, and story. The hero must slay the dragon. And this isn't just a fairy tale. It's a psychological necessity. The dragon is not some mythical beast. It's the thing you're most afraid of. It's the unknown, the pain, the suffering you haven't yet confronted. It's the addiction you feed in the dark, the secret you won't admit, the part of yourself you most despise. And if you don't face it voluntarily, if you don't go into its cave of your own free will, it will find you anyway, and it will eat you. You can see this playing out all the time in the lives of people who avoid responsibility and run from discomfort. Their dragons grow while they look away. The problems they won't address begin to breed and multiply. One lie becomes two, and then 10, and then a web, so thick they can't even remember who they were before it all began. That's what happens when you refuse to sacrifice, when you refuse to confront what must be confronted. The monster gets bigger, and eventually it corners you. And by then, it's too late. But the hero does something different. He walks into the darkness on purpose. He sacrifices comfort now for strength later. He says, I will face what must be faced before it becomes too powerful to defeat. That's the principle of voluntary confrontation. And it's the only thing that transforms you into someone capable of real meaning. I've seen young people paralyzed by fire, afraid to speak, to commit, to move forward in any serious way. And you can feel it. They're circling something massive in the center of their psyche.